Before you, friend, is unquestionably the hottest new vehicle in the world. And I'm including all ICEs and all EVs. This is the 2024 Kia EV9. And when I say popular, I mean that it has won more awards in the last 6-8 months than any other vehicle. I can't remember. In fact, I can't remember the last time a vehicle was so impactful that immediately all journalists, consumers, enthusiasts, and just looked at the vehicle and thought that it was an absolute winner and a stunner. I mean, the only one that kind of comes to mind is the Audi R8 back in 2007, 2008, where it just cleaned up everything, except obviously for family vehicle purposes. But I mean, the impact of just one vehicle it was so far-reaching. I mean, it's won just about every conceivable award from media outlets, from associations, except maybe one or two. And I don't know, it's all over the place, except for on the roads for the moment. There's a few good reasons for that. Well, I'll give you two. I mean, it's available, but it's not really available, and it ain't cheap. But it is not that expensive either, considering what you do get. We'll go over that in a few minutes. And look, it's been 6 days now since I've been in the presence of the 2024 Kia EV9. And yes, I know my shoes match, ocean blue with my Adidas. It just happens like that. I can't explain it. And I mean, it's absolutely clear and understandable as to why this thing is on fire. Let's hope it doesn't catch fire. Right? But it's just incredibly hot. I mean, I can only find one minor issue with this vehicle after 6 days of driving it, and I'll tell you about that. And it's not an issue for many people. So basically, it's possible that this may be the perfect family EV currently available for sale on the market. You will lease it, however, you will not buy it. But that's just, between friends. It's just a little bit of a conseil d'ami, as we say in French in Quebec. Anyhow, in the following video, we'll do the long walk around of this 3-row electric SUV, and then we're going to go for a drive. So please hang in there. So as you soak in the lines on this truck, well, I'll call it a truck, you'll note that there are no bad angles, no missed opportunities. While you do that, I'll tell you that in the US, base price for the light rear-wheel drive is $54,900, and the top trim GT line, which is all-wheel drive as standard, $73,900. In Canada, we start with the light rear-wheel drive as well. You get 19-inch wheels, twin 12.3-inch displays, battery heating, the 76.1 kilowatt-hour battery, by the way. 7-passenger configuration, power tailgate, and a bunch of other stuff. $59,995. As we continue our tour, I mean, usually I say things, are over the top when it comes to Korean design, but it's subtly overpowering. It somehow just works. The wheelbase, the dimensions, the proportions, the overhangs, everything, it's just crazy. Okay, so I told you about the light. So if you go one step up, it's the wind rear-wheel drive with a 99.8 kilowatt-hour battery. So heated steering wheel, heat pump, and a bunch of other stuff. That's kind of like the sweet spot, but it's only available rear-wheel drive. Now, if you want to go all-wheel drive, you get the Land all-wheel drive, which starts in Canada at $64,995. So it's for most federal and provincial incentives, it just scooches right under the bar. And but if you want to go ultimate, if you want to go top trim, if you want to just get absolutely everything under the sun, you get this GT line, which is $14,000 over the $64,995. Yes, that's right. So $79,000 for an EV from Kia. But you do get the 21-inch wheels, which, by the way, just so you know, those are plastic caps. Those are not actual alloy wheels. 21s though. Massive tires, 285 section. You get a heads-up display, power folding second and third row, synthetic leather, light pattern in the front grille, which you can't see with the sun, but I had to position it this way. Essentially, you can kind of see like little spots in there. They light up. It's so clean. It looks so good. It's incredible. There is a frunk too, by the way. There's not much to show or tell. But yeah, with the ocean blue as it sits, this one is $79,245. That is so much money. It's got like lounge chairs in the first two rows as well. I'll show you that. I'll show all that to you in a few moments. The power hatch, as I noted, is standard. I got this. There it is. So with the third row in place, you're looking at 573 liters of boot space, which is very decent. It works out kind of nice. A little bit of storage under there. It's very, that's right, very typical, normal. 1,233 liters behind the third row, which is pretty good too. I mean, if you need more than this, just, well, you should get a minivan anyway, but they're not available yet, all electric. Okay, yeah, these are the pop-out door handles, which can be annoying. They're a little bit slow, especially when you walk up to it, because there's one of those functions where you walk up to it and it recognizes you and it comes out. Sometimes it just won't play nicely, and you got to yank it 2 or 3 times. And the button itself to lock the door is not always very sensitive. There it just worked fine, but it didn't lock because the door is open. Which, when you do open the massive rear door, oh, by the way, so essentially, the EV9 is 1 centimeter longer than a Telluride, 1 centimeter lower, and 1 centimeter narrower, just so you know. So it's essentially, it's a Telluride. Basically, that's what it is. So here, power second row, okay, and it's even heated and cooled, as you can see right there, heated and cooled second row. Shades, wonderful. This starts to give you an idea of, you know, the fit, the finish, the materials. It's just absolute top notch. And the attention to detail is spectacular. Pockets, this is amazing. With a little light too, a bin, it's I don't know what to say really. It's just fantastic. USB port, I always like USB-C. I always like the fact that you have buttons to control the passenger seat from either the driver or from the rear passengers. The seats themselves are very comfortable, and you have the lounge function, which is the pillow right there, the cushion, which actually raises. And another amazing thing is that, okay, so in this configuration, it's a 6-seater. So you have the actual walkthrough to get to the third row, which is absolutely usable. I promise you, I don't know if the light, your knees are actually comfortably bent because the lower seat cushion is high enough from the seat floor. It's quite amazing. It blows my mind. And the seats are power operated, so you can power recline the seat back. I think you're starting to get the idea. Okay, this is 80 grand, but it's all of that. It's just absolutely everything. Heated, cooled, memory, heated steering wheel right there. The dashboard itself is just, it's lovely. I mean, I have nothing negative to say. I mean, you get massive storage under here, good sized bins here. You know, not very big there, but it works. Might as well slide aboard the synthetic. I'm tired. I'm sorry. Synthetic leather is really thick and it's convincingly durable looking. I don't know what it'll be like in a few years. Oh, even the headrests are very cool. It's like a springy mesh, which is hollow. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, see, it's hollow. They're really comfortable. Details, my friends. Start button is down here. A little bit of an annoyance, but not really. Okay, so, there's your display. It changes here. I'll just go right into your drive modes. All right, sport, my drive. I've been doing most of my driving in normal, just so we're there. And that's an important thing, which we'll touch on in a few moments. Usually, you don't have this separation between, say, the instrument display and a touchscreen display. But here you have your HVAC controls, which are, they work well, but, you know, it's kind of, most of them, well, you can see from what I'm trying to say here is that they're partially blocked off by the steering wheel. So you got to scooch over a few inches, but whatever. The Kia Connect stuff is just, it's great. It works fantastically well. And you do have these hard buttons for HVAC as well. I don't know. These are haptic buttons for your setup, you know, your home button, your map. It's just wonderful. USB-C down here. The only thing maybe, like, this could have been storage, say like the Toyota, but the attention to detail is spectacular. I mean, it looks fantastic. Let's just leave it at that. Meridian audio is not that bad either, and even the visibility, though the base of the A-pillar is really, really thick, because the windshield is so upright, you have a great spot there. And because, again, it's so upright, you have good sight lines at the bottom of the A-pillar. You have to figure it out once you're sitting in the driver's seat. Yeah, I'm just completely blown away. Absolutely blown away. Anyway, let's go for a drive right now. No, obviously, I'm not sponsored by North Face. Did not realize. Oops. All right. Okay. So, driving, you know what? I'm just going to focus on the few negative things right away. I showed you the interior. You got a good shot of the dual 12.3-inch screens. That's one thing that's happened twice so far now. Well, I'm cabled for my Apple CarPlay, which is included, because it's that much more reliable than wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. But strangely enough, twice the system could not recognize my phone was connected or dropped me while I was connected. And the other thing, slightly more serious, is that I did start it up and drive off at one point with this screen completely off. The instrument panel was just a blank screen, or a blank display of glossy blackness. That's it for maybe 30 seconds. Nothing, I mean, I was driving slowly, wasn't going really anywhere. Not really worrisome, but that summarizes those little bugs. The other one is the ride. It's not bad, but it shouldn't be this harshish. Right now, I'm on a fairly smooth surface, my typical road, but it does have little irregularities in the topmost surface. Nothing very deep, nothing very sharp, but I can feel almost everything despite the size of these tires and the suspension, the chassis, the battery, the structure and everything. I can feel everything, and it's incredibly annoying. 21-inch tires may have something to do with that. But otherwise, you know, independent suspension in the front, multi-link, 5-link in the rear. With the GT line, you do get, which is part of the $14,000 package, self-leveling air suspension in the rear, which does something a little bit odd, because as we drive, when the irregularities in the road are very minute or teeny tiny, you can absolutely feel everything. But once you surpass a certain threshold, where the wheels are moving a little bit more, I mean, the unsprung weight on this thing must be insane. These 21-inch wheels and tires, they're massive. Suddenly, it goes from being not forgiving enough to being way too forgiving, where the EV9 tends to kind of float. That too is not very pleasant. And speeds of 30, 40, 50 kilometers an hour or whatnot, you go over the slightly greater bump or change in size of the bump, and you can feel the front work, and then you feel the rear work differently, as though the rear end was floatier than the front because of the self-leveling air suspension. To me, this means that the chassis, the suspension, is just not quite calibrated properly enough yet. I would still go for the air suspension, which I believe is optional in lower trims, just not on the base light model. But that essentially, that's the negative stuff. The slightly lesser stuff, let's call it that, is the dual motor setup, which produces 379 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque, which are huge numbers for any SUV, with the 99.8 kilowatt-hour battery. But the thing is, this SUV weighs 6,000 pounds. So yes, it'll do 0 to 100 kilometers per hour from a standstill in just under 5 seconds, which is ridiculously fast. So the GT is going to be mind-boggling with 576 HP and, I don't know, 3 Mount Rainier's worth of torque. But yeah, that's just that. This is what happens when you step out of a number of EVs that are a lot lighter with similar power, say like a GV70 electric or a GV60, for example, or an EV6, and so on and so forth, but even with a lesser output. But that's it. Otherwise, well, efficiency, look, it's just 27-ish to 29 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which is a lot, but it's a massive battery, it's heavy, it's not that efficient, but it's a big SUV, so that's what you got to get. So I guess that brings us to range. So I'll just focus with the larger battery. The range queen is your mid-trim with the wind, which will give you 489 kilometers of indicated range. Once you get the all-wheel drive configuration, that range drops to 451 kilometers, and when you get to the massive GT line, it drops a little further to 435. Now, this is a 800 volt architecture. It's capable of sucking down 350 kilowatt hours, being charged, kilowatts, sorry, being charged. So, it has 10 to 80% charge is about 24 minutes because of the size of the battery. So that's all fine and good. But it's so climate and use dependent, it's just incredible. But when I left this morning, I had only charged it up to about 94%, and I had an indicated range of 427 kilometers, meaning that 435 is easy peasy. But right now at about 13 degrees Celsius, not about, that's what it's indicated there, I'm not using the heating, I'm not using the cooling, I'm essentially just being in the vehicle, so I'm at maximized efficiency. So I don't know, it hasn't been cold all week. Maybe, I don't remember the last time it was cold. A month ago when it was minus 10. Maybe they would drop by the usually estimated, 20%-ish, 25%. Tough to say, but very likely. But even so, 435 indicated is, or estimated I should say, is very, very good. Or if you just want all-wheel drive, 450, 451. More than enough range. I've plugged it in overnight on my new Flow Home X5 charger, and a bunch of hours later, it's just doing its thing. It's ready to go in the morning. It's just absolutely perfect. Another thing that is perfect is the Hyundai Group's incredible, intuitive, brilliant thinking when it comes to regenerative braking. So there are four modes. Wow, my brain just farted. So yeah, there's 0, so coasting, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's it, max. So 5 modes in total. And I'm having a tremendous time just shifting as I drive off. I drop it to 1, maybe 0 if I'm getting onto the highway. If I'm in the city, I'll back off until 2, and then back to 1 pedal driving, IMAX. Yeah, this is a heavy truck, but it still handles well enough. But yeah, if you play with these pedals, you get involved in the EV driving experience, and it's intuitive. It's just, they're right there, the pedals. You just work them, your fingers are already there. All right, so this is just an exceptional EV. It has won all the awards for all the right reasons. The only concern, really, is what is it going to be like in 4 years? 3 maybe? And there are some glitchy things, but that's not unusual, but that's not good either. So you lease it, and you'll absolutely love it. I have nothing else to say. I'd get this over a Model X without even thinking for a half second. In the near future, we'll see. But this right now is, in my opinion, the king of EVs.